Hello and welcome to Tea Talk, where the topics are real, relevant, and relaxing. It's Tea Talk time, and here's Lady O.
Thank you, Tracy. I love your mug, your coffee cup. I have a new one here today too, but I want to welcome everybody to Tea Talk, and just so glad to have you. We have a wonderful, wonderful topic today, and some guests here are going to really inspire you. They really inspire me. And they are going to be some ladies who have some expertise in quilting. Now, when I was coming up and as a little girl, quilting was a big thing in the country from East Texas, from where I was from. I don't know about you. Anybody on right now have any experience with quilting or quilts? Now, my experience was in the country, there was no heat. So therefore, in the winter, you would literally freeze to death if we had just the kind of blankets on our beds that we have on now. And so my aunts and all of my aunts and my grandmother and all of the ladies would take up quilting, because they would, in the summer, they would shell peas and can stuff, but they were also making quilts for the bed, for new babies, for people who are getting married. And my little story about my quilt is I always look forward to getting a quilt for my house when I got my own house, when I got married. Well, my great aunt, who did the big quilting for weddings, which the best quilts, everybody wanted one. She was a midwife, and she had her little hospital room was out in her house out in the country. And she would tell us, y'all come stay with me this summer. I'm going to make you a quilt. Well, I didn't want to come stay at her house because, number one, it was jet black at nighttime and they didn't put on little lights and stuff like that. It was out. And then the other thing is that she had a hospital room, and she was so picky about, don't touch it. Don't do this. Don't look in there. Don't go in there. And it just looked like to me, maybe somebody was going to die in there or something. I was just really kind of spooked out about it. So I never spent a summer with her. And guess what? When I got married, she said, you do not get a quilt. I was devastated. So all my life, I wanted a quilt. I'm just very, very upset about it. Anybody else have a quilt? Let's see. Gigi said her mother was a big quilter. Okay, wonderful. So you're going to be able to give us some info here. You know what I'm talking about. And these quilts were so heavy and so thick, they would layer them on like icing cakes. And once you got under there, you didn't move because it was so cold. And if you did get up, which I have had to get up a couple of times to go potty, then trying to get back in there was no fun. And you hope and pray that everybody got up and went to the potty, which I did, but some people did not. And I'm not going to go into that story, but it was, we kept warm under there. We were never cold. Okay, that's how good those blankets and quilts were. So I've got some ladies here who have been doing this for some time, and they're going to share about it. So go ahead and let your friends know about this. I've asked them, is this something that any age can do? And they can share with you. It's for any age, especially those that are getting ready to retire. It gives you something to do. We're going to have this class. Sister Stephanie has already told me we're going to have a class when we have our senior housing next year. When it comes open, we're going to offer that. But it's not just for seniors. It's for anybody who loves to do art and keep the mind strong and to create something beautiful. And they're going to share their beautiful quilts. So you don't want to miss it. You might want to get your little girls together too, because I loved looking at the different quilts when I was a little girl and teenager. So go ahead and make sure that everybody signs in. I just want to share my mug today. This is from Sister Deborah Baxter, gave me this beautiful mug. I don't know if you can see it. It's got me and my dad on it. You know, I just lost my dad a couple of weeks ago. And so this is a mug that she gave me. And I haven't had a chance to thank her, but if she's on, thank you. Sister Deborah, I'll call you later and say thank you. But this is what I'm doing my tea with today, out of a mug for my dad. And I guess she'll have to come on one time and tell us how to get these done too. But that's what we're doing today. So are you ready to learn about quilts and quilting and see some real life women who can tell you everything you want to know? So get your questions ready, get your comments ready. We are about to go. Sister QT says a quilting class for the seniors facility will be great. Okay, we're gonna have it. She promised me she's gonna tell you today. So I'm gonna bring her on first because she is the lady that I know and a lot of you know from First Met. Wonderful, wonderful teacher and person. But more than that, I don't know if how many of you knew that she did quilting. She does other arts and crafts too. But not only does she teach, and not only is she a wonderful, wonderful person, she does quilting. So the first guest today is going to be our own Miss Stephanie Moss. So would you help me welcome Sister Stephanie to Tea Talk? Hello.
Well, thank you. And hello. I don't know why my video is not showing, but
Let's see. We're going to get you fixed. Make sure you don't have the little click down there that says X on the video, but Tisha will fix it up for you. Let's see. Is it coming on? Looks like it's coming. All right. Well, they're working on that. So while they're working on that, I'm going to show the audience the quilt that you made for me, because I told Stephanie the little story about how I didn't get a quilt when I got married. And of those of you that don't know, we will be married 50 years next month, April 14th. So we're getting ready for this grand celebration. And so it's so funny. We're talking about quilting and what happened 50 years ago when I got married and I didn't get. But Stephanie made me my own personal quilt. She knows I like blue and yellow because it's the book of the color of my book, A Day with My Father. If you haven't gotten it, please get the book. It's about forgiveness, but these are the colors. And then last week, for those of you all that were on last week, when we had our special guest on, I had it on the other side, which is my favorite color of yellow. So she did this for me, reversing sides. So she can do one for you too. And they're going to tell you how to get these quilts, how to get them made, and you know, how to order them. And the thing that I like about it is they all say that they can, you know, talk to you and you can give them some ideas and they can make it kind of like something that reminds you of whatever you want to be reminded of. Now, my family, they made the quilts, and I don't know about yours, but what they would do is every time a child would grow out of a dress or tear a dress up, or the boys would grow out of this or grow out of that, or if there was a wedding or something, you know, that they wanted a memory of, they would take the scraps of the fabric, they would cut them into squares, and all the squares were the same size, okay? And so they would cut them, and I forgot what they call them. They're going to tell me in a minute. They would make I'm saying patches because I don't know the right name for it, but they would cut these squares and they would put them in a box. And when they got so many over the years of children growing up and things happening, they would put them together and they would make this quilt. And when you looked at the quilt, it wasn't just something for covering, it was a memory of the things that have happened. There Stephanie is. Okay, Stephanie, you know, come on, talk to me. I was just kind of trying to explain to them how, you know, we save these little patches and cut the pieces up in this. So you can tell me about that in a minute. But let me go ahead and let's welcome Sister Stephanie to Tea Talk. I'm so glad you're here. So tell me how you got started with quilting, and then you can talk about how those squares and things are put together. But how did you get started?
All right. Well, thank you, Lady O, and thank you for having us here. Most people probably don't know that yesterday was today to be able to talk about our much. I began sewing when I was 10 years old, just a little girl, learned how to sew. And throughout my life, I would sew little different projects, different things, depending on the stage of life I was in. And probably in my early 40s, I got introduced to quilting. I was like you, that little girl that would see the quilts on the bed and the different patchwork of color. And I was just interested in that. And kind of in the back of my mind, I always told myself, I want to learn how to do that. And the opportunity presented itself. I had a lady at my job, Jerry Cook, and she would have fabulous quilted pieces in her cubby. And quite a few of us were like, oh, so beautiful, and we want to learn how to do it. Please teach us. And so she decided to meet with a group of us after work once a week for about 6 weeks. And she taught us how to quilt. And it's just been a passion of mine ever since. I have a lot of fun with it. And it is a great way to express your creativity and just to have some fun, you know.
Right.
Community with others. It's a fun thing to do. So yeah, when you talk about those little scraps, those scraps can be sewn together to make quilt blocks.
Exactly. We didn't throw anything away.
Together to make these beautiful quilts, which you'll see some pictures of those before we leave today.
So you were saying they're calling quilting blocks?
Yeah. So, you know, you've got the squares the different patches that you cut out, and then those are sewn together and you make what's called a quilt block, a block.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you have to get so many, because I remember some of them were we did the shape. Some were square, some were rectangle, some were triangle, but they had to all be the same size. So and I want to repeat this too, because your video was freezing when you said that. But March is not only National Women's Month. It's not the for just the observing women, but it's also, it's called the National Quilting Day, which was the 18th, which you were saying was yesterday. So that's another reason why we have you on. We have you guys on because you're wonderful women who are doing great things. And then also because it is our quilting day was yesterday, the National Quilting Holiday. And there's so many things they do in observance of that. So you're going to talk about those in a few minutes. What I want to do though is give you an opportunity. I know you have a PowerPoint that's going to kind of set the pace for us. So I'm happy that you took this up. And, you know, and back in the day, every girl had to take homemaking and every girl had to know how to sew. Now, I think now it's all, you don't have to take it. You can take it if you want to. And our girls don't know anything about sewing. I think that's, I don't know. I have mixed feelings about that because I think that, you know, I think back in the day, the men made us learn how to cook and sew so we could take care of them and their children and do nothing else. But now we've got other things we can do. So I think that's a good thing.
Sewing is a wonderful skill. It's a wonderful skill, and it's a skill that I have utilized throughout my life. And so just excited to have, you know, this new realm of quilting where I can actually use that skill. So yeah, and sewing is seeming like it's becoming popular again today. There's all kinds of sewing classes and things out there for people to do. Yeah.
Well, we're going to talk about that because we have a new senior housing that's coming up. And I told the group before you got on here that you have promised. So we're going to put this in video.
He's going to put it into the world.
I'm saying out to the world that you are going to be actively involved in that quilting with our seniors. And anybody wants to come, and, you know, when you have those classes with the senior housing, senior places, anybody can usually come as long as they're safe or whatever, especially the church is partnering. So it won't be just all those seniors, it'll be people who love sewing. I would like to have it too, where we have a time where we have the kids. So we kind of partner with the kids and teach them some things. So we'll talk about that later. But why don't you go ahead and give me your PowerPoint before we get too far, because I know we have some other guests and I do want to see your beautiful quilts. I know you all have the quilts to share. So let's get started with this. Go ahead.
Okay. And my quilts are kind of near the end of the slideshow.
Okay.
So kind of, I'm near the last 8, Tisha.
The colors.
Some of these are, keep going. I'll tell you, well, you're going to see a simple quilt on grass. That's where mine began, right there. All right. So go back one, Tisha, because I wanted to show that first quilt. That's my very first in the order. Go back to the little one on the grass. Yes. That is my very first quilt. And I wanted to share that, Lady O, because you can see it's very simple, you know, not much to it. But this is how you get started with quilting. This is a very simple quilt. When we were making it, we were thinking, oh, this is so difficult. Why did the teacher give us that to do? But this is actually taught us the basics of quilting. We learned how to use the rotary cutter. We learned
Yeah.
how to cut those little blocks out, how to sew them together. We learned half square triangles. We learned how to put borders on, how to sandwich the
Because
quilt.
really and truly, let's stop there for a minute, because I'm having a little flashback of what my aunts used to tell me, and I see what they meant. It's just really your shapes. You got triangles, you got squares, you got circles, you got rectangles, and then you have your border you put around there and you seal it. So you kind of work. Is that true? You kind of work from the inside out.
Kind of, yes.
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
But that's
And
good
there's
for your
lots of
first
different
quilt.
steps, as you've heard, and the quilt is
Mhm.
not finished until you have uh named it and put a tag on the back telling when it was made and what it's being called, and usually we'll put the size on there. So
So what
that's
the
my
name of this
first
one is
quilt.
My First Quilt?
Yeah, so this is, yeah, I just call it my first quilt.
Okay,
Go ahead to
okay,
the
go
next
ahead.
one. The next quilt is one called Michigan Winter. This is a quilt I gave to my mom, and this is when I
Oh,
really started feeling like, ooh, this is a something I can do, that I can be good at, and it kind of
wow.
inspired me to keep practicing and keep trying. Uh,
It
continue.
looks like a Michigan winter.
Yeah,
Very
it does
cold.
really. And so happy dances, I think when I kind of came into my own with quilting, I started realizing that I kind of was like a modern quilter more so than a traditional quilter. I learned that I love quilting with lots of scraps and lots of color. And so all of
Mm,
that kind of went into that one. And this is
that's
one that
beautiful.
actually won a third place ribbon in the
Ooh,
Tri-County Quilt Guild's show, I think back in 2018. So I'm
wow.
pretty excited about that one.
Congratulations.
Here's one
Okay.
called Ethnic Elegance. And
Oh,
Lady O,
that's
you talked
beautiful.
about how your aunts had little scraps they would save from here and save from there. This quilt was actually made from a bag of African scraps that I had probably for 20, 25 years. But I just couldn't get rid of them. I kept thinking I'm going to do something with them. And once I learned how to quilt, when I saw this pattern with all those little pieces, I was like, I could make that a quilt out of that. And that's
Now,
what
how long did that take you? How long did that take you to make?
I don't remember, but it took months. It took months, and it really just depends on how much time you put in. At that
Yeah,
time, I was working, so I didn't have a whole lot of time to put in. So
yeah.
whenever I could, I would work on it. I think I actually finished it at a retreat, and it just turned out to be a
It's
beautiful quilt. So I'm
beautiful.
really proud of that one.
Yeah.
Here's one that's called the Parallel Universe Mystery Quilt. And this is special because I made this during the pandemic. It was in an online class that was put on by three African American quilters. They designed the quilt and they actually taught the class, and we all made a quilt. So it took over a little over a year for me to complete it. And this also hung in a quilt show. Didn't win a ribbon, but it was one that taught me all kinds of new things, like how to do curves, how to use a ruler, how to do an inset
I'm
circle.
looking at that twisted thing there you have with the yellow and the orange, and I'm
Yeah,
like, how in the
yeah,
world did she do
yeah.
that?
I mean, these ladies challenged us in so many different ways. And to be able to do it was very inspiring because you're like, hey, I can do this.
Oh
Where
my.
before I likely wouldn't have tried any of this on my own. But in
Right.
the class, you had them holding your hand. They were excellent teachers, and we were able to come up with a really beautiful product. It was a lot of fun, and we did it alongside a group on Facebook.
Oh, look at that
This
one.
is a quilt that is actually a wall hanging, and you'll see a lot of art quilts out there these days. And
Mhm.
this one is called Warrior Woman. It was actually it's a pattern that's designed by Renee Florenges Valdez, and she's a really great quilt artist out of South Carolina. And she had a class. It was virtual on a Saturday, I think in 2021, and she taught us how to make her warrior woman. And I was just getting started in applique, which is a technique, quilting technique. And I said, I'm gonna try it. I just like that warrior woman, and I was shocked at how it came out. And it's actually won a third place ribbon in
Wow.
the
I
2022
love
show
that.
of the Tri-County Quilt Guild.
Let
So
me
I'm
ask
proud
you
of
a
that one.
question about that. I'm hearing you say several times that there are classes online. So do they give you the package of material? They send it to you, and then while they're going through it, you're making it at the same time?
Yeah, that's how she did. You registered for the class, you paid your fee, and then she sent you the pattern. She told you what supplies you were going to need, what fabric to gather, what tools to have on hand. And then on the day of the class, you were ready to go. And you didn't finish it in class, but she got you started, and then you were able to go on your own and finish it up. And so most of the classes are like that. Some of them you have to purchase rulers and things like that. And
Okay.
to show this slide, which has lots of little projects, because as much as I love making quilts, I like doing little quilted projects. And
Mm-hmm.
so I'm always making zipper pouches and key fobs and tote bags and, Christmas ornaments and stockings. And once I made a little baby quilt and got a little doll and made a dress for her and kind of put that
Oh,
together as a gift. And I've been lately making little mini quilts, which allow me to practice my applique. And all of
mm,
these projects help me practice my precision, my 1/4 inch, my quilting on my domestic machine, and just learning,
wow.
learning and practicing and refining my skills. So
Now, I know we're going to talk about tools and things in a few minutes, so I'm being very, very careful not to ask you about that. But I keep saying I can do this technique and then this, and then using this tool and how to. So we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But let's get to thank. Those are beautiful, so
thank
Stephanie. I
you.
mean,
Thank you.
just I just what they make me think about, which I wish I could do too, and I'm gonna do one day. And um, Mary Cox does this, those big puzzles, and they got 1,000 pieces in them, and I think of that being kind of like a quilt. And I know it takes time, but I'm gonna have her on one day too, because would you say that this quilting is really good? Because I know she does her a lot for memory and as she gets older for kind of to help with the mind, concentration and stuff like that?
Most definitely. I read an article once and it talked about how quilting was on the list of things that you could do as you get older to help prevent cognitive decline. So it
Ah,
really is something that helps you with your thought. You're always thinking, trying to choose things, and it keeps your mind sharp. And there's always a new technique to learn. I forgot to mention about the Warrior Woman is that quilt artist is going to be at International Quilt Fest Houston this fall. She's been asked to teach 3 classes, and the Warrior
oh,
Woman is the class she's going to teach on November 2nd. And so, folks who are interested, you've got a chance to make your own Warrior Woman this
oh
fall.
my goodness. Okay, let me. So, you just threw out something here. You're gonna have to kind of keep us abreast of it. If where do we go to find out information? And do you have a website where we can buy these things, or how do they get in touch with you?
I'll
To
tell you, Lady O, I do have an Etsy shop. It's called the Steffi Stuff Shop. But one of the things that I found out in the last couple of years in running it is that it's really hard to keep the shop stocked with things. And it kind of
yeah.
my creativity when I'm trying to just make something to go in the shop. And so I've
Mhm.
been exploring other ways or other places where I might sell. I know we've chatted about me possibly having a booth at this year's women's conference. And
Right.
so I'm exploring other avenues where I could sell. I really don't like to make quilts and sell them. But the little things that I make, I don't like having them just lying around. I would love if somebody loves it and wants to buy it, I would allow them to do that. So
Right.
the
Right.
Steffi Stuff Shop on Etsy.
Stephanie Stuff Shop and
Steffi Stuff, yeah, Steffie.
STEFFIE.
Yep, the Steffi Stuff Shop.
The Steffies. Okay, I'm sure Tish will get it put in the someone
Yeah,
will put it in the chat so that we can keep up with that and go and visit and see what you have. And I know that's what I've been told many times is one of the biggest challenges that entrepreneurs have that are selling things is to have inventory.
yeah,
Because when you go online like something like that, people may go on and you may get 10 or 20 of them ordering one day. Like, wait a minute, I can't do that
right.
many. So
Hard.
so anyway, so you say it's on you go and find it just by Googling, right? Or
Yeah, you can Google that or go on Etsy and do a search.
Etsy. That's what I thought you said. It's
Etsy.com.
Etsy. Okay, very good. All right, they got it down there now, so it's in the chat. So, and I know one of the other things that I was so happy to hear, excited about hearing, is that you say you can make friends, and I know you have some friends that you're bringing on to introduce today. So, let's see, we want to hear from them. So, who's coming first? Jean. Hi, Jean. I met Jean a little bit earlier, and I'm
Hello.
loving that yellow you have on there. And so, Jean, why don't you start off by kind of introducing yourself? Tell us how you got started in quilting.
Okay, well, my name is Jean Johnson, and I'm up here in Dallas. I think most of y'all are in Houston.
Yay! Yay
Yes,
for Dallas.
Houston. Yes. So I got started. First of all, both my grandmothers quilted, but I was very young then, probably 6 or 7. And one of them died when I was young. But the other one quilted up until the middle 80s before she passed away. So I kind of had it in my genes, I guess. But like most of you, I took home economics in high school.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
that's where I got my basic sewing beginnings from. And then then life took a meaning of its own. And then when I moved here to Dallas in 1989, I really wanted to get back into sewing because I was a travel nurse. So I traveled in a new city every 3 months. So I was ready to settle down and start doing regular things. And so I took a quilting class. I took a sewing class, a refresher sewing class, and it was full, luckily. And the lady says, "Oh, well, I have a quilt beginner's quilt class. Would you want to take that?" And I said, "You know what? That might be better." So I took it and never looked back. And so then
Was
later
that
on,
in college when you took the quilting? They offer quilting classes in college?
oh, not in college, when I moved here in 1989.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I took it at Joann's Fabrics,
Oh, I
which I think
see.
at the
Okay.
time was Cloth World.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And the class was full, and so she told me to, I'm offering a beginner's quilt class. I said, well, yeah, that might work out better. So I took the
Mhm.
class. And
Okay.
so then I just never looked back. I joined the Dallas Guild and the Plano Guild and all the guilds up here, and just bouncing from one to the other, going to the quilt shows, coming down there at Houston at the George R. Brown for the international show. And so I
Wow.
would go down there every year. And so after I had about, I guess, 10 years of experience or so, and I got to looking around and like, I don't see anybody that looks like me. I can't be the only one.
Wow.
So, going to the guild meetings and stuff like that. And so I decided that I would start a quilt guild. So I started a quilt guild at my church, and it kind of grew from there. So
You hear
then,
that, Stephanie? Did you hear that, Stephanie? Go ahead, Gina. I just want to make sure Stephanie was listening.
yeah, so okay. So I started a quilt guild, the first African American quilt guild in the area, and we're still going. We've been going since 1996, and through the years we've done various quilt shows. And I was saying earlier that we had a exhibit out at the American Airline terminal out at DFW Airport. We've done them at Bell Helicopter, Dallas Public Library, a lot of places. And so we're really big into going out in the public. And my thing was to try to promote our African American heritage because, everybody got some connection with quilts in
We
their
were
past.
doing those quilts. We were doing those quilts, right? Back in
Yes,
the day.
yes, we
Everybody
were.
wasn't doing those quilts until they had to.
Yes, yes. And so I wanted to keep that going. And I thought it was important that young people know about our heritage and to try to keep it going. And so I do a lot of teaching in my guild because I was the only one with a lot of experience. There was a couple of other girls, I think, when I started that I kind of ran into or they heard about it. You know how word gets around in our
Oh, yeah.
community. And so it's just started to grow from there. And so we've been going for over, I think, about 27 years or so.
Now, what's the name of your guild that you have there? And is that out of Concord? You were telling me you were a member of,
Yes, it's called Quilting Sisters of Color.
and
Uh,
that's at Concord?
yes, ma'am. We meet the fourth Saturday of the month from 1 to 5, 1 to 4,
Okay. I'm
somewhere
gonna
in
tell
there.
my friend Jennifer because she's retired. And
Yes,
and do you find that most of the people in your group are they retired or what are the ages of most of your
uh,
members?
I think most of them are retired. I think there's a few that will still work,
Okay.
but most of them are retired. And just like now, I'm teaching my niece who's 30 how to sew. And
Okay.
so she's getting ready to get married. So I think she's feeling that nesting
Uh-huh.
syndrome.
She
So
wants to have her quilt too.
yes,
Well, listen,
exactly.
we've got to see what you do. I hear you. I had a lot of little things there with you being a nurse, and I know you're a busy lady. But the fact that you took time to quilt, would you say that kind of maybe took your mind off of the emergencies and the
Yes,
things.
because I work in surgery and do a lot of traumas and stuff like that for all these years. And it could get pretty tense, especially when you have a bad day when somebody passes away on you. So this is an outlet where you can kind of let all that go, because like Stephanie said earlier, I'm thinking about designing something, or, this fabric doesn't work. Let me try this. Let me do that.
Right.
What
Takes your mind off
what?
of it.
Yeah, it takes your mind off
Oh,
everything.
of everything. And we
Yes,
need
it
that.
does. And women need that. They
We
need
need that.
a
Yeah.
outlet for themselves.
Exactly. Well, let's see your beautiful quilts. I can't wait, because I know one of them won a really, really big award. So kind of talk us through it and
Okay.
let us know what you got here.
Okay.
Hold on. Let's see. It's coming up. Let's see. Is that your quilt?
Yes, that one was.
Okay, go back.
Nothing.
Not that one.
Yeah, keep going about 6 quilts in. One
We're
more.
going that way or the other way?
That's Jean's there. That's where hers began. Go back 1.
And then, okay.
All right, there you go, Jean.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah, that is 32 cents postage due. So,
Ah!
you can imagine now, how much does a stamp cost now? I don't even know. It's so
Oh my
much.
goodness.
Yeah,
much.
well, when I made that one back in 1998, postage stamps cost 32 cents. So
Oh.
it was in the Dallas show and won a ribbon. And so it's each little piece is the size of a postage stamp. So it's 1 inch square. And I couldn't even tell you how many that's in there.
Oh
And
my goodness. I can
yeah,
imagine a postage, the actual size of a postage stamp, you
the
say?
actual size is 1 by 1 inch square. So
Oh, those are tiny. That takes a lot of love and work.
yes.
Beautiful.
And I'm glad I did it while I was really young. If I had to do it now, I don't know if I could do it or not.
I'm telling you.
Oh,
Oh, that
uh,
was pretty too.
oh, thank you. This one is 40 cents postage due.
42 cent
42
postage.
cents. So postage stamps had gone up. So this is a quilt I actually done with my group, the Patchwork Divas. We're a reproduction group, and we try to reproduce quilts from the 1800s. And so
Oh,
this quilt hung in Houston, and it was so popular that one lady from some quilt shop in Minnesota, I think, she called me and asked me, could she start a Facebook group with this making my quilt? And I said, oh yeah. So people from all over the world, Australia, New Zealand, England, they were all making this quilt. And so I would pop on every day and answer questions or whatever. So it was
wow.
a very popular quilt.
Oh, wow.
This is a drunk in Africa.
Drunk
So
in
it's
Africa.
yes, it's a drunkard's path pattern. Where you're sewing curves actually. And this quilt, I had started it and then I kind of let it go, moved on to some other projects. And then one day I looked in this bag. I thought, what is in this bag? And it was this quilt. And I said, I need to finish this. And so I
Right.
did. I finished it up. And so there's Drunk in Africa.
That's wonderful. And you mentioned doing in circles. Does that mean you cut it out in circle? Are you sewing in circles?
Yeah, you have to sew the pieces together in a circle. And with the pieces being kind of curved, if you will,
Right.
that's why it's called a drunkard's path. Like a drunk would stagger like that.
Zigzag.
Yeah, zigzag. Yeah, so
Yes.
that's a drunkard's path.
Oh, okay.
That's
That's a
why it's called
technique.
Drunk in Africa. And it's made out of African prints.
Okay, it's beautiful.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah. And this is African Love. I made this quilt I was commissioned to make this quilt for somebody that lived in California. I didn't even know the lady. She was a friend of mine. And it was her friend actually. And so I made it and I thought, I need one of those too. So I did remake this one. So this is the one that I kept. And then the lady in California, who I don't even know, has this quilt.
Okay. I remember y'all talking about that earlier, that you want to kind of make a replica for yourself because then you forget what you
Yes, I'd
did.
rather make you one instead of giving you mine, because
Give
then
me
I won't
mine.
go back
You
and
keep your
remake it.
original. Because
Yeah.
originals are so expensive and they're so priceless when you have the original.
Yes, yes, it
Yeah.
is. It is. And I just
Okay.
rather go ahead and make you one instead of giving you mine. But
Exactly.
this is called Under Nigeria and Over Ghana. So it's made out of all African prints. And the original, I took this pattern. One of my favorite things to do is to take regular traditional patterns and put
Right.
African fabrics on it and spin it and see what it looks like. And believe it or not, this one has a black background. In the original quilt, I think it was pink, and then it had all pastel strips on it. It looked like an Easter basket. And so
That's what I was looking at. I could kind of see the black behind it. I was trying to figure out, is that someone's face? You know how sometimes you have a silhouette or something, but I can see it. That's beautiful.
Yes. So that's that one. And this is a quarter square triangle quilt. I even cut each little square is 3 inches, but the ones in the middle, I cut them down to 2 inches. And so I just recently finished this one. So it's been kind of like a UFO for a while, maybe about 5 years.
It almost looks like buttons or something. I'm trying to buttons or
and so it, like I say, I just recently finished this. It was a UFO, and a UFO is an unfinished object. So we use that term all the time.
I love it. Yes. That is beautiful. Oh boy, what's this one?
This is African interlock. I recently made this one just in January, and it's just a quilt with a dark black background, and I loved it. It was really, really quick, really, really fast. I was so shocked that it went so fast that I made another one just like it, but I made a king size. I think this is kind of like almost like a queen size. So I made it again.
Is it? I see it says interlock. Are they actually when you get ready to make something like this? Are you laying it down and putting it underneath one and over one and underneath one before you sew it? Is it really like that?
Oh no, it just has that illusion. That's why I liked it. Yeah, it looks like it's going under and over, but it's just really one strip sewn to the next strip. So it's just eye tricking, if you will.
Okay. Wow. Which is a skill I'm sure that you all have to be able to put that together. Oh my goodness, this is cute. It makes me think of potholders when I first saw it. Those are cute.
Yes, this is the African stack quilt, and I just recently finished it. And this is the one that's hanging behind me here. I'm getting ready to finish it up and maybe put a border on it. I have it up on my wall trying to decide if I want to put a border on it or not. Sometimes quilts call for borders and sometimes they don't. So this one was really fun. This is the first time I ever made a quilt where I did each individual block at a time because I want to make sure I got the colors right and nothing ran into each other. So, but it's one of my favorite African quilts.
Wow. And I noticed you do a lot of African work. Is that kind of like your signature? Like you like to work with a lot of African fabrics?
Yes and no. My really heart thing is reproduction quilts made from the 1800s. So they look antique and old because fabric companies nowadays, they go to like the Shelburne Museum or the Smithsonian and they take pictures of fabric, and they have old catalogs. They get old quilts from people and they take pictures and they date the fabric, and the fabric that's dated between like 1790s up until like 1880s or so. That's really my favorite line of fabric, but it's not as bright and cheery. It looks old. Mm-hmm. And so when I use the African prints, that kind of feeds my need for something bright and cheery and happy.
Right.
So that I liked working with those two fabrics mainly.
Right. Now, did you point out the quilt that you got an award for? And was it a reproduction quilt?
Yes, it was.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Did you say that was the one that got the award? I can't remember. I don't remember you saying that.
Yeah, the postage stamp did.
The postage stamp. That was a reproduction?
Yeah, I didn't put any in that I won awards from. I just chose these for some odd reason. Yeah.
Well, we know that you won several awards. What would be your most prestigious award that you won?
Oh, probably getting a red ribbon and at the quilt show, I guess.
Okay, would that be it? Because I noticed you said somebody said something about the George R. Brown. Mm-hmm. Is that the quilting show or is it something else?
It was just an exhibit. My group the group that I was talking about, where I had the pink quilt at the George R. Brown, mm-hmm. The one everybody was making. That I did that with it was in that exhibit. It was a whole group of us, my whole group, and that group we've published 2 books and been in several quilt magazines.
Oh,
And
wow.
so they asked us, so the Georgia O'Brien asked us to come down and present this exhibit. And we've done it 2 or 3 times, I think. And then next year, we're going to be in that exhibit again. And then sometimes they take the quilts that we put in the exhibit. Like I had one quilt, a pineapple quilt that went all over the country. It went to Philadelphia, Chicago, and Long Beach in the international show. When it leaves the Georgia or Brown, it goes to other cities.
Oh, and
And
they can
they took they took our exhibit with them. That quilt was gone for like a year, and then one day it just showed up on the porch, kind of like.
And they were finished with the tour, huh?
Yeah, it was finished with the tour. I told my husband the prodigal son came back. So
okay. Well, great. Well, and congratulations, and we can't wait. We're going to get all those dates and things from Stephanie when y'all are here at the Georgia R. Brown, and we'd love to come down, and it seems like a great field trip and adventure way with women, and we'd like to probably get together and do something like that. Sister Stephanie. Everything back up.
We got a big long checklist here today.
Let's go to our next guest here. So Stephanie, you want to let's see. This is Mable.
Yes.
There you are. I love that quilt behind you as well. I've been waiting for you to give us the story. So come on, welcome to Tea Talk and tell us about how you got started with quilting.
And Lady O, I've got to let you know that Mable is my favorite quilting buddy. We're on the phone almost every day, sending pictures, showing quilts, asking for feedback, all of that. And so she actually was in the group that learned how to quilt with me in the HISD conference room, and just a really great friend and a great quilting buddy.
Yeah, because y'all go back to how long ago was that when y'all started?
Gosh, back to 2005 is when we learned. Yeah, and we quilt together every week on Thursday afternoons on Zoom.
Good. All right, Miss Mable, tell us about how you got started.
Okay, thank you very much, First Lady. My name is Mable Humphrey, and I have been quilting, I'm going to say 6 years, no, not 6 years, since I was 6 years old. Ooh. And it was taking the needle, going in the center of the quilt for my grandmother and bringing it up and then putting it down again. So that's quilt I've been doing 6 because she could not get on the floor and do the stitches. So that's what we would do. Now
that's
I have
you're talking about.
I'm sorry.
When you're talking about techniques like that, that's way back. So let's see if we can get her on the screen by herself so we can get a little close up. She's going to be showing us some tools and just put her on by herself. Okay. Yeah, there you go. Okay. All right. Go ahead.
And so, but I've actually been quilting since 2005, as Stephanie said. We started at HISD in the conference room after school and, after work. And we continued from then. So it has been such a great experience, and I just love quilting. Stephanie said, Mabel, I'm going to write down that you're a traditional quilter. I said, no. Write down I'm a mezzo quilter. She said, mezzo, what's that? I said, between traditional and contemporary.
I love it. Well, let's see some of your beautiful quilts. I can't wait for you to talk about them. And if you have some equipment or something there you want to share, just come on and share with us. I've been waiting to hear about that one. Is that one's yours too?
Yes, that's my menagerie of print. What I had done, I took a whole yardage of fabric, no blocks or anything, and I sewed borders around it. And everyone, you can be a quilter by just getting a yard or 2 yards of material and sewing a border around it. For instance, this would be called, you could take something like this, if you can see, 2 yards of material, and you say, oh, I like this, and then find the border that will go around it. So I'm not going to spend too much time on each one, Lady O, because I know there are questions. So this one right here is called Walk in the Park. With Walk in the Park, what I did, this is called a jelly roll. So I took consist of 2.5-inch strips. And I just sewed them, 5 of them together, and then another color of 5 together, laid them one vertically, one diagonally, and then sewed it together. And that's what I got. So
And that's the jelly roll, you say?
a jelly roll. This is called a jelly roll.
I think that's the one that my aunt used, because they used to do those patches and they would sew them together first and make a square. Then they lay them a certain way and almost really pin them together before they actually did the sewing. So that might be what they were doing, the jelly roll.
Yeah, so this is the jelly roll.
Yeah.
Right here, this is a quilt that is called Pepper Center. And what I did, there's a Black quilt instructor named Guyleen Fitzgerald. And she has a tool, and this is what we call a tool, our rulers. And it helps you to be able to twist and turn and fold and quilt and twist and turn and fold and quilt. So
that looks like a Delta quilt.
Okay.
No, I said that because somebody in the comments are saying that looks like an AKA quilt. So I had to get my little in there. It looks like where my deltas at.
I think I have gone through the entire Greek sororities and fraternities making quilts. Okay.
And you can make probably either one of them, all of them, huh?
Yes. This is called A Long Time Coming. Yeah. And the reason why I started this quilt with Stephanie and the other group in 2006. And because of one reason or another, I never got to complete it until 2016. So it took 10 years to do this. And what it is called a block of the month. You make each month, you make a block. And I guess I was doing a block a year instead of a block.
Well, you know what? Let me say this. When you first said the title of it, A Long Time Coming, I thought about a clock, because when I looked at that front one, the middle top center, it looked like a clock.
Clock, yes, yes.
And then the others, the time, the time thing you're trying to sand over, that thing, the sand, I'm thinking about the days of our lives, whatever. The one
hourglass.
Yeah, the hourglass. Yeah, it looks like that. I mean, it looks like time. That's beautiful.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Okay. Right here is a quick trip around the world, because it is a very small quilt. And the larger, I never forget, I had just begun to quilt, and I think we were doing quilts for the St. John After Dark program for the homeless, and we did 108 quilts, a group of us. And
did the homeless decided as well? Excuse me, I'm sorry. Did the homeless do the quilts, or y'all did quilts?
No, we did. Each one of us did 12, I believe.
Okay.
12 quilts.
Were they for homeless people, or you just did
homeless people, for the homeless?
Oh,
so they would have, and we took very good care in choosing a pattern, something that was bright, something that would make lift their spirits, and also something that would keep them warm. So I had made a larger one like this, and I'll never forget, it was 225 squares that I used for the other one. I think each square was about 3.5 inches. And I said, oh, I'm going to make this. Now, remember, I had only done, this was the trip around the world. I had only done 3 quilts and not even knowing how to do it. Well, I told my friend, the teacher, I wanted to do it. She tried to explain to me how I could do it quickly, and this analytical mind of mine just could not understand what she was saying as an abstract. So uh, this is the reason why I call it a quick trip around the world. But I did do it the hard way, sewing each one of the 225
that is
blocks
beautiful. How
together.
long did it take you?
To do
No, the one you just
this one,
the
oh, it
1 month.
1 month,
Okay.
because and I
That
was
one.
doing it every day. This one right here, it only took me, and it's
Oh,
smaller, so it took me about
okay, because
2
it's smaller.
weeks
I see what you're saying.
just to do
Okay,
the top now,
just the top.
just
Wow.
the top. And it's
Okay.
smaller. Okay, this is called a
Mhm.
Bargello quilt, and the Bargello quilt, the hardest part about doing it is doing the gradation of colors, because you have to be able to go from dark to medium to light. And uh, it may have taken me and the other ladies, may have taken us 2 weeks just to pick the fabric, and then another 2 weeks to try to see how we would put it, the fabrics together. You have to take a picture and take it in black and white so you could see which one is darker than the other. You may have 4 blues and you say, oh, this one is lighter than this one, but it isn't. So that
I
was the
don't get that
hardest
one.
part
I'm
about
still
it.
looking, trying to see how in the world are you making a quilt with striation lines that kind of go elongated and the colors are so close together. Ooh, that one right there gives me a headache thinking about how you put that together.
No, it would not, First Lady. No, it would not. It's
Oh,
easier than you think.
beautiful.
This is, we all decided we were going to do,
African Queens.
and
Ooh.
that's my African Queen quilt. And
See, I would like to get together to do one of that one because I'm into this queen thing. So, African Queens, the essence of beauty. How long did it take you to make that one?
oh, Steph, what? We did it in a month? Or I didn't know Steph could. I believe once we got everything together, cutting it out and everything, it took about 2 months to get, for me, to get all the little squares cut out,
Together.
because
Right,
the
right.
colors, the fabric, and
Y'all did
everything.
it together. You and Stephanie did this one together.
Well, no, she did one also.
Oh, you did your own individual.
Yes,
Just
we all had to do
work
our
together.
own individual.
Oh,
So
by
I
the time it's
think
flying so
in
fast.
total, it
That's
may have taken us 3 months. No, not us. It may have taken Mabel 3 months to do it.
okay.
Mhm.
Well, that's
And
beautiful. And then this one is back to the beginning.
yeah,
Oh my
no,
God.
that's Starburst of Color. That's it.
It's beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Well, listen, I know you have lots of tools there. And if you could tell me maybe in about 1 minute.
Okay, then I showed you about the 2.5-inch strips that you need. Then you may hear fat quarters, and fat quarters are only a quarter of a yard, so it's 18 by is 1/4 of the yard, so it's 18 by 22, because the yard is 42 inches. Then you would see you have, and these are already cut for you, so you could just start sewing if you had a pair.
Oh, you can buy them already cut. You don't have to cut them out like my mom.
Yes, right. And this is right
Use
here
pinking
is the
shears and stuff like that. Pinking shears. They cut.
I do not use it, but
Okay.
we use the rotary cutter to do a lot of it, or a pair of scissors just to clip.
So the rotary cutter is like some scissors that glide.
Yes.
They go faster. Okay.
And then we have this, which is a charm pack. And then we have this, the 10 by 10, which is called a layer cake. And you could do a panel for those who just want to do something quick. Just take a panel and put some borders around it. And then you have a quick quilt right there.
Yeah. Do y'all put
take
batting
full
in
yardage of fabric and you can do a quilt.
Because I'm thinking that the one you just showed could be a little gift for a baby, a grandmother, or somebody
Yes.
might want to do that. Do you put batting in there and then just put a sew a cover on the back?
Yes. For instance, this is the bag
Okay.
that I use.
Okay.
All you do is fabric. For instance, I would take, if I was making that, I would take this fabric and put it in the back, on the back of it.
Okay. Okay. Very good. Well, thank you all so much for coming. And Sister Stephanie, where are you? Okay, we're thanking you for introducing us to these wonderful ladies, and I know you have a whole bunch more. We're going to be depending on you to get some quilting things going on and to keep us informed about what's going on. So maybe we could get a group of ladies to go to the George R. Brown or somewhere. If there's a retreat, I think I could probably do it if it was a retreat. I had nothing else around me to do but focus on the quilting and rest. I probably could do that. So do you have any parting words for us or any encouragement to the people who are watching about quilting?
Yeah, I'll just say thank you again, Lady O, for having us. Quilting is such a fun thing to do. It's a fun way to express yourself and your creativity. And, you've kind of seen a great spectrum of quilting. So you can do something real simple, like Mabel said, using the jelly rolls or the pre-cuts or the big, whole cloth quilt, or you can get really complicated like Jean and do, all the little stamp size pieces. So there is something for everyone. And there's so many different avenues and ways you can go. You just learn the basics and then keep adding on techniques and keep refining your skills. And so really it is something anyone can do. And it's a great thing to leave behind when you're gone, because we do a lot of gifting of quilts to, special people in our lives and to family members. And, it's just something great that's left behind. And quilts last forever. They last for years if they're well taken care
They
of.
do. And you can even, they used to mend the ones my grandmother and them had. They would mend those. So this was your grandmother's quilt. They're still throwing it together and wherever it kind of gets weak. Well, listen, I'm really, really excited about it. I want to thank each and every one of you all for coming out and sharing with us. I'm really super encouraged when they say it's something that you can do to get away from all the stress that you're consumed with every day. We as women have so many hats we're wearing. And then for those of us that are getting older, it's a way to keep you from having Alzheimer's and all this memory loss, that to do something like this. So we're definitely going to have it in our new center when we open it up next year. So in the meantime, you can find quilting places online. We're going to have one pretty soon in our church, and it will be a great thing for you to start in your church or start a group with some of your friends to do something positive. And then the other thing that Stephanie just said, you can always leave it as a legacy. Because for me, growing up, my family did it to tell a story. So in that quilt, you saw all the children growing up. I remember when this was the first baptism. I remember this was when so-and-so was in the hospital. So they are a live rendition or story of your life. And it's something you can leave as a legacy to remember. And also, when the heat goes out, you can keep warm with it. So listen, this is all I have for today. This is Lady O saying thank you for joining us. And we will see you again next week for Tea with Lady O. Bye-bye for now.